Hi, I'm Kristi from S4. I'm a particle physicist, which means I look at the tiniest things that make up everything in the universe. But one of the things that I love and I'm very passionate about is space and looking at the night sky. And while I've been stuck here in the house, one of the things that's kept me going is the fact that one of the windows in my house, it's quite dark outside, so I can still look at the night sky, which is really good for me because March and April are massively important astronomy-wise, and there's some really cool stuff going on in the sky at the moment. So one of the things that's happened is it was the spring equinox on the 20th of March, and the spring equinox is the day exactly in between where you get 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of nighttime. And as you can probably guess from the name, it marks the start of spring. And for loads of people, this is really nice, really important. You know, it's spring and new things are happening. I really like winter. And one of the main reasons I really like winter is because I like the winter constellations. My favourite constellation is a winter constellation. It's Orion the Hunter. And he is visible for the next few weeks. He's easy to spot in the sky. He's got 3 stars, really bright in a straight line, and that makes up his belt. Then from his belt you can find his shoulders, Bellatrix and Betelgeuse. And you could then find his hourglass shape and find his knees. He's shown holding a club and a bow and arrow, and he's out for the next few weeks. So if you've got a garden or if you've got a window that's quite dark outside, you can give him a wave before he goes away for the summer. One of the reasons I like Orion is he actually looks like what he's supposed to look like. He's got a head, he's got shoulders, he's got a waist, he looks like a person. And some constellations you kind of have to use your imagination a bit. Some of them are just a random cluster of stars, and people will say, you know, that's a goat, that's a crab, that's a ram. They don't really look like that. But one coming out at the moment is another one that looks like what it's supposed to look like. It's Leo the lion. Leo the lion as well has a head, he has a body, it's kind of believable as a lion. Some of you might recognise the name Leo as one of the star signs. So the 12 star signs of the Zodiac, we recognise them, so most people will know their own star sign, but they're also constellations. There are 12 constellations, and we see them at different times of the year because the sky changes throughout the year, so all 12 of them will be visible at different times. So April is the time for all you Leos to get outside in the gardens or look outside your windows and see your star sign actually in the sky. April is really good for viewing the moon as well, because there's going to be something called a supermoon. And a supermoon is basically, if you've ever been outside and looked at the moon and seen it looks really big and bright, that is a supermoon. And the reason these happen is the moon goes around the Earth, and we think of it going around in a nice little circle. That's actually not what happens. It actually goes around in an ellipse or an oval. And because of this, it sometimes comes closer to the Earth and sometimes further away. And when there's a supermoon, it means that there's a full moon when the Earth and the moon are really, really close. So when you look in the sky and the moon looks really big, it's probably because it is actually closer to the Earth than usual. On the 8th of April, there's going to be a supermoon, which is going to be the biggest, brightest supermoon of the year. It's going to be when the full moon and the closest approach to the Earth are really, really, really close. So it's going to be the closest the moon will be to the Earth while it's full all year. So if we don't get any clouds, we should see a nice, big, beautiful, bright moon. The best times to see it are just after sunset or just before sunrise. That's because that's when full moons will rise and set as well. And the moon will actually look bigger when it's closer to the Earth, so lower in the sky. And the reason for that is kind of weird. It's actually just an optical illusion. It's a trick that your mind plays on you. When the moon is really high in the sky, it's got nothing else around it that your brain knows the size of. It's got nothing for perspective. So because your brain doesn't know how big the things around it are, you can't really tell how big the moon is, so it makes it look smaller. When the moon is really low in the sky, it will usually have trees or buildings or hills or something around it. And your brain knows how big they are, roughly. So it can work out that the moon is really, really big. So it makes it look bigger. And it's just a trick of the mind. Something else that's happening in April is really the holy grail of things that you can see in the night sky. the thing that all people who love to look at the night sky really wait for and hope for all year. That's a meteor shower. So a meteor shower is when a comet comes quite close to Earth, and they happen quite regularly. It leaves behind a trail of like rocks and dust and bits that come close to the Earth, and they're not dangerous because they'll hit our atmosphere, the air around us, around the Earth, and they'll burn up. And we'll see them as burning streaks across the sky. And we call them meteors, or we call them shooting stars. And there's one happening at the end of the month, at the end of April, called the Lyrids meteor shower. It's when loads of these meteors will all happen at once. It will happen from the 16th to about the 25th of April, but the peak will be on the night of the 21st, going into the morning of the 22nd. And at its peak, you'll see about 18 meteors an hour. The Lyrids is kind of special because it has random bursts. They're really unpredictable, we don't know when they're going to happen, but if you manage to catch one of these bursts, you'll suddenly see loads more meteors happening. They'll be happening really, really fast. And when one of these bursts happens, you can see over 100 meteors an hour. So a couple every minute, which is quite a lot of meteors, really loads of opportunities to see shooting stars. And they're called the Lyrids because when you look at meteor showers, they usually all seem to come from the same part of the sky. And these ones look like they're coming from the constellation called Lyra, which is shown as a harp or as a lyre, which is an ancient Greek musical instrument that looks a bit like a harp. If you'd like to know more, there's going to be some information that you can download that's going to have some of the stories behind these constellations, some other things to look out for. Okay, goodbye.